Good morning and welcome to News at 10 on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. France is at war, says President Hollande, even as a hunt is on for the suspects of the Paris attacks. Well, that is the big story that we'll be looking at. Also, we'll take a look at the G20 summit that concluded yesterday. But let us begin with the headlines. Series of raids across France following the deadly Paris attacks. 23 people arrested, several weapons seized. Belgian jihadist Abdelhamid Aboudin being investigated as the possible mastermind. France says it will step up its strikes against Islamic State in Syria. François Hollande says constitutional changes during address to joint sitting of Parliament. India pledges full support to France. US President Barack Obama defends IS strategy, says US committed to rooting out the face of evil, rules out ground troops in Syria. President Pranab Mukherjee advises literary icons to use a debate in their protest against intolerance, urges them not to return awards by letting emotions overrun reason. And the rains continue to pound Tamil Nadu. Death toll due to downpour reaches 71. Chief Minister allocates 500 crore rupees for flood relief and rehabilitation. 11 teams of NDRF on ground. Our top focus, a total of 23 people have been arrested and dozens of weapons seized in a series of raids on suspected Islamic State militants across France. The crackdown follows multiple attacks on bars, restaurants, a concert hall and a stadium in Paris on Friday, in which 129 people were killed. Belgian police say that 2 people arrested on Saturday have been charged with participating in a terrorist attack. They were among 7 people detained in Belgium at the weekend. 5 of them were later released, including Mohammed Abdel Salam, the brother of 2 suspects, Ibrahim Abdel Salam, who was killed during the attacks, and Salah Abdel Salam, who is on the run. Meanwhile, 28-year-old Belgian jihadist Abdelhamid Aboud is being investigated as a possible mastermind of the Paris attacks. Now, Aboud is of Moroccan descent and has fought along the Islamic State group in Syria, and has been on the run since police stormed a jihadist cell in eastern Belgium in January this year. Now, investigators believe that he was in contact with at least one of the Abdel Salam brothers. Ibrahim Abdel Salam was one of the suicide attackers in Paris, and his brother Salah is being hunted by the police. Now, French President François Hollande has vowed to destroy Islamic State as he sought international cooperation to eliminate the terror group. Now, addressing a joint session of Parliament, Hollande said that he will be meeting President Barack Obama and Vladimir Putin in the coming days to press for a joint attack against the Islamic State.
French President François Hollande says the country would step up the battle against the Islamic State group in Syria, calling the deadly attacks in Paris as an act of war. Hollande told an exceptional meeting of both houses of Parliament he would meet US President Barack Obama and Russia's Vladimir Putin in the coming days, and called for a UN Security Council meeting over the fight against IS jihadists.
D'ici là, la France intensifiera ses opérations en Syrie. La nécessité de détruire Daesh constitue un sujet qui concerne toute la communauté internationale. J'ai donc demandé au Conseil de sécurité de se réunir dans les meilleurs délais pour adopter une résolution marquant cette volonté commune.
Hollande also underlined that the threat from the IS is not restricted to the French borders. He urged the international community for assistance to fight the terrorist group.
Nous sommes dans une guerre contre le terrorisme djihadiste qui menace le monde entier et pas seulement la France.
He, however, clarified the fight against a terror group is not a war against any civilization.
Si bien que nous ne sommes pas engagés dans une guerre de civilisation, parce que ces assassins n'en représentent aucune.
The French president also said he would table a bill to extend the state of emergency declared after the attacks for 3 months and would suggest changes to the constitution.
J'estime en conscience que nous devons faire évoluer notre constitution pour permettre au pouvoir public d'agir conformément à l'état de droit contre le terrorisme de guerre.
Ola also revealed he would pursue measures including 5,000 extra police posts in the next 2 years and no new cuts in the defense budget, making it easier to strip dual nationals of their French citizenship if they are convicted of a terrorist offence, as long as it does not render them stateless, speeding up the deportation of foreigners who pose a particularly grave threat to the security of the nation, and pushing for greater European action against arms trafficking and greater penalties for it in France. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And India has pledged its support to France in its fight against Islamic State. Minister of State for Home, Kiran Rijiju, has said that New Delhi is ready to give support on any level to the French government.
ये घोषणा किया कि हम इस फ्रांस की लड़ाई को सिर्फ फ्रांस का ही लड़ाई नहीं मानते हुए विश्व का एक लड़ाई ऐसे मान करके पूरा समर्थन करने का फैसला किया। और फ्रांस भारत का पुराना एक स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनर भी है, मित्र देश है, इसलिए उस लिहाज से फ्रांस के लोगों के साथ इस दुखद घड़ी में पूरी तरह से हम खड़ा है।
And US President Barack Obama defended his strategy to root out Islamic State as he faced a volley of questions from the international community at the G20 summit in Turkey on Monday. Now, even as he called Islamic State the face of evil, he ruled out any ground troops to fight Islamic State in Syria. However, Obama is under strong pressure back home as many US states have now refused to take Syrian migrants due to security fears after the Paris attacks.
There will be an intensification of the strategy that we put forward. What's been interesting is in the aftermath of Paris, as I listen to those who suggest something else needs to be done, typically the things they suggest need to be done are things we are already doing.
Defensive and combative. The US President Barack Obama strongly defending his IS strategy amid mounting criticism that US is not doing enough to stop the IS advance. Obama reiterated that US-led coalition would intensify its efforts to implement the current strategy rather than moving in a new direction.
But understand that one of the challenges we have in this situation is that if you have a handful of people who don't mind dying, they can kill a lot of people. It's not their sophistication or the particular weaponry that they possess, but it is the ideology that they carry with them and their willingness to die.
However, Obama is facing opposition back home. Many US states have turned a hard face at Syrian refugees due to security fears. Obama pleaded US not to equate refugee crisis with terrorism.
Is very important, and I was glad to see that this was affirmed again and again by the G20, that we do not close our hearts to these victims of such violence and somehow start equating the issue of refugees with the issue of terrorism.
I would watch them very carefully, that's for sure. I would certainly stop any further ingress. You know, Congress, I think, should defund all the programs that allow these people to be brought here immediately.
Parents.
In the wake of the horrific Paris attacks, Obama said that US would begin a new streamlined process of sharing intelligence with France, which would prevent any further attacks. However, the Paris attacks have left at least a few questioning the US directives to stem out IS. The future of Syrian refugees also hangs in balance. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Paris attacks had other repercussions as well because of the tension in the wake of Paris attacks. The first batch of migrants arrived in Australia today under the resettlement plan. Among them are 5 Syrians as well. Now, the resettlement plan was agreed upon by the European Union member states to tackle the migrant crisis. Australia had agreed to take in an extra 12,000 refugees early in September. Now, Australian Foreign Minister Julie Bishop said that all those being given refugee status in the country have been hand-picked by the authorities after a rigorous screening process. Tension is high among all the European states after reports that one of the Paris attackers entered Europe posing as a Syrian refugee. Well, news coming in from Turkey. Well, the two-day G20 summit ended with a pledge to step up the fight against terrorism. The G20 leaders promised to cooperate on managing borders, airline safety, sharing information on suspected terrorists, and many other relevant issues related to global acts of terrorism. Take a look.
The annual G20 summit usually focuses on economic issues. The Paris attacks made the event a crucial opportunity for world leaders to discuss plans to defeat terrorism without affecting migrants' population. Russian President Vladimir Putin appealed to G20 member states to cut off financing to terrorist groups and said Russia was ready to support Syria's opposition with airstrikes in their fight against Islamic State.
Да, но, конечно, мы все понимаем и об этом говорили, о том, что нужно пресекать пути финансирования террористической деятельности. Я приводил примеры, связанные с нашими данными о финансировании физическими лицами.
It's clear to me that we must work together to defeat this scourge of terrorism that is a threat to Britain, a threat to Russia, a threat to us all.
Stressing further, French Foreign Minister says attacks in Paris claimed by IS were a strike against French values rather than its actions. While Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy added that any measures taken to tackle the group must be thoroughly coordinated.
Ils ne nous frappent pas, contrairement à ce qu'ils disent, pour ce que nous faisons, mais pour ce que nous sommes. C'est-à-dire des personnes qui n'acceptent pas leur idéologie et leur domination. Et c'est là où le monde entier ressent, je le crois, que ça peut leur arriver.
Con 300 soldados que están ayudando a formar al ejército de Irak. Y allí estamos contra el Daesh. Y quiero decir que, como ustedes han podido ver en el día de ayer, estamos en una misión de la OTAN para defender a un socio como es Turquía, que puede ser atacado por Daesh.
G20 leaders agreed to step up border controls and aviation security in a joint statement that marked a rare departure from their usual focus on the global economy. Making commitments, newly elected Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau said that they would remain committed to the coalition battling against Islamic State.
There are many countries and many resources continuing in the bombing missions, and we will continue to help in a way that makes a meaningful impact in the fight against ISIL. And we're going to continue to be very clear that Canada is resolute to be part of the fight against ISIL.
Condemning the Paris attacks as heinous, G20 summit concluded with world leaders pledging to remain committed to tackle terrorism. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And more news from Turkey. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj held intense discussions with their counterparts of our top 20 economies in Turkey on Sunday as well as on Monday. Now, these discussions covered important areas like infrastructure financing and reducing transaction costs for remittances, among others.
At the G20 summit, the Paris attacks prompted Prime Minister Narendra Modi to seek steps to choke terror funding. He also asked advanced nations to set aside a $100 billion annual fund to tackle climate change. India also sought lower transaction costs for sending money from one country to another.
I think one of the biggest hurdles for enhancing financial access in the country like ours is the high transaction cost. I think that's very, very important, more so for a country like India, which is attracting huge amount of money through remittances.
Last year, India got remittances worth $70 billion, the largest in the world. Indians spent 7.5% of this, or $5.25 billion in transaction cost. India wants G20 nations to bring down this cost to 3% by 2030. It also sought $500 billion for infrastructure financing to upgrade roads, airports, seaports and its British-era rail network. In return, India assured of a low corporate tax regime to attract investment.
tax terrorism is one thing we need to tackle before we invite the investment proposals from other countries. The second point is the BEPS. I think India is leading discussions regarding BEPS in the G20 negotiations. It is base erosion and profit sharing. It's related to the tax avoidance by the multinationals.
A study done by Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, multinational companies exploit loopholes in tax laws and shift profits to the places where corporate tax is negligible. OECD estimates $100 to $240 billion are lost due to this. India wants G20 countries to plug these loopholes. It also sought more rights on international financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank, where reforms are long due. This is Krishnanand Tripathi report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Those were the news related to the G20 summit in Turkey that concluded yesterday. And now let's get you some more international stories in World Wrap. Officials in Harvard have ruled out any bomb threat in the university campus. Just a day before, a bomb threat was issued in the wake of Paris terror attacks, which killed nearly 130 people. The police officials are investigating the source behind the bomb threat. Anti-racist protests are back in the U.S. city of Minneapolis. They are protesting over a police official shooting an unarmed black man early on Sunday. Witnesses said that he was also handcuffed when the police opened fire at him. An investigation has been launched into the incident. Myanmar's parliament is meeting for the first time since Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy won a landslide victory in recently concluded polls. New MPs will not attend the session as the members who lost their seats can remain in office until the end of January next year. Suu Kyi also made no comment on the new session as she was mobbed by media at parliament. Well, we'll slip into a short break here, but news and updates will continue on the other side as well. Stay tuned.
Tradition dating back centuries. A cultural heritage that inspires and warms at once. Magic that awes. Rajya Sabha Television brings you events that embrace the wonders of India's classical arts. Conversations with the biggest names in the culture and music. Rajya Sabha Television, democracy at work.
Welcome back. News from South India, and a northeast monsoon continues to wreak havoc in Tamil Nadu with rains pounding the north coastal districts. The death toll due to the rains-related incidents has risen to 71 now. From Karnataka to Puducherry, the rain fury also continues to hit other parts of South India. Meanwhile, more rain is forecast for the coming days, but its intensity is going to decrease after Tuesday. 500 crore rupees has been allotted for flood relief and rehabilitation in Tamil Nadu.
Northeast monsoon fury continues in Tamil Nadu with the death toll due to heavy rains and flooding rising to 71. Normal life has been hit as incessant rains have led to inundation of large areas. In Chennai, educational institutions, subways have been shut, suburban train services have been disrupted. There is going to be little relief today as well, as Met Department has forecast heavy downpour in Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and coastal Andhra Pradesh, much depending upon movement of a low pressure area over coastal parts.
Since the system is heading towards South Andhra coast as well as North Tamil Nadu coast, those districts abutting the Rayalaseema and coastal Andhra Pradesh, namely Vellore, Tiruvallur, Chennai and Kanchipuram may experience heavy to very heavy rainfall.
We have taken all precautionary measures to prevent any untoward incidents, especially to avoid the human losses. Control rooms have been opened at the district collectorate and all the 5 revenue divisions, and as well as district level officers have been sent to all the mandals to monitor the flood situations. People in the low-lying areas have been identified and they have been alerted.
On Monday, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha herself faced the rain fury when her convoy was stuck in the jam when she was visiting her constituency, Dr. Radhakrishnan Nagar. The state government is evacuating people living in low-lying areas. Relief for 4 lakh rupees each to the affected families has been announced. The Chief Minister has said that big motor pumps and super sucker machines have been pressed into service to remove stagnant water. 11 teams comprising 400 personnel of NDRF responders have been rushed to the state to conduct relief and rescue operations. Amid chaos, Jayalalitha has appealed for calm.
கோயம்பேடு நியூ காலனி பகுதி சார் இது மழை வெள்ளத்தில் 10 நாளாக மழை வந்ததால ஒரே தண்ணி வந்து இந்த சாக்கடை தண்ணியும் சேர்ந்து வருதால வீடுகளெல்லாம் மூழ்கி போச்சு. மக்கள் ரொம்ப அவதிப்படுறாங்க. குழந்தை குட்டிலாம் வந்து ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்படுறாங்க. அதுக்கு
Congress President Sonia Gandhi on Monday also expressed distress at the damage in the state and asked the centre and state government to spare no effort in reaching food, shelter and relief to the affected people. Meanwhile, the prices of vegetables have also soared in the areas affected. There is also fear of waterborne diseases looming large. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in other news, after making his interventions on a raging debate on intolerance, President Pranab Mukherjee called on intellectuals to resolve matters through debate and discussion. He urged writers and filmmakers not to return awards but cherish the recognition.
President Pranab Mukherjee reminded literary icons and artists who are returning their awards in protest against growing intolerance that they should not let their emotions overrun reason and that disagreement must be expressed through debate and discussion.
Awards should be cherished and valued by those who receive them. Sensitive minds sometimes get disturbed by some incidents in society, but expression of concern over such events should be balanced.
President Mukherjee made his address after inaugurating the National Press Day celebrations organized by the Press Council of India. He also gave away national awards for excellence in journalism on the occasion.
The power of the media should be used to reset our moral compasses and promote liberalism, humanism and decency in public life.
Meanwhile, Minister of State General V.K. Singh was embroiled in yet another controversy when he said that intolerance in India is an unnecessary creation of very imaginative minds being paid with a lot of money. He further asserted that it was a politically motivated move before the Bihar polls. Opposition leaders were quick to react and criticize V.K. Singh for his remark. Janata Dal United President Sharad Yadav asked the BJP top brass to take action against the minister for repeatedly making such controversial statements.
और रोज ये कोई ना कोई बुरी बात बोलता है आदमी, यानी हिंदुस्तान में जो फौज है उसके जनरल ने इतना को भी उपद्रव नहीं किया हुआ जिस तरह इसने किया, और ये यहाँ भी इसको ले लिया इन लोगों ने. रोज ये कोई ना कोई ऐसी बात कहता है फिर पलटता है, और मैं कहूंगा कि बीजेपी इसकी जबान बंद करे.
At least 75 members of the intelligentsia have returned awards in an escalation of protests by writers, historians, filmmakers and scientists who are growing intolerance, voicing fears that the country is being ruined in the current atmosphere. The BJP-led government has dismissed the protest as manufactured rebellion and politically motivated. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, the 35th edition of India's largest trade fair has commenced on a high note, drawing a huge business delegation to the sprawling Pragati Maidan fairgrounds on the very first day. The reflection of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's ambitious project Make in India could be seen in the international trade fair. IITF serves as a global platform for exhibitors from around the world to showcase their goods and culture. Over 7,000 domestic and foreign firms from 28 countries are participating in the IITF this year. And some of the sellers are attributing the overwhelming response to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Make in India mantra.
मेक इन इंडिया से के तहत जो मोदी जी का सपना है उसके तहत हमें काफी अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल रही है और हम इसे जो इंडिया में ही हमें पहले पसंद किया जाता था हमारे माल को अब हमें विदेशों में भी पसंद किया जा रहा है जिसका हमें बहुत बेनिफिट हो रहा है।
इन्हीं सब सामान को हम विदेश में भी हमें क्लाइंट मिले हैं और बहुत अच्छा जा रहा है, हमारा अच्छा रेस्पॉन्स आ रहा है। उम्मीद है कि आगे मेक इन इंडिया बहुत अच्छी तरह सक्सेसफुल भी होगा और हमें इसका अच्छा रेस्पॉन्स भी मिलेगा।
And a look at what all events are stored through the day in the day ahead. Home Minister Rajnath Singh will chair an inaugural session of Asia Leaders meeting conducted towards implementation of the Sendai framework today in the national capital. The Asia Leaders meeting will be attended by key dignitaries and senior ministers from nations of China, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Mongolia, South Korea and Thailand. In fresh trouble for Nestle India Limited, food regulator FSSAI moved the Supreme Court against the Bombay High Court order lifting the ban on Maggi noodles in the country. The apex court is likely to hear FSSAI's plea against lifting ban on Maggi noodles today. FSSAI, in its fresh plea, has questioned the sanctity of the samples provided for retest to government-approved labs. Delhi court is likely to pass its order on CBI's closure report giving clean chit to Congress leader Jagdish Titler in a 1984 anti-Sikh riots case. The riot victims have filed a protest petition against the clean chit given thrice to Titler by the CBI, claiming that there was ample evidence to prosecute him and accuse the agency of favouring him. NGO Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative will launch a virtual police station that will provide information on the functioning of a police station online. Filing an FIR or understanding police processes can be done without even visiting the police station. The virtual police station is a first of its kind training tool to acquaint the public with the functioning of a police station and act as a training tool. Well, on to sports, and rain is threatening to wash out the second test in Bangalore between India and South Africa. The third day's play was completely washed out, making it 2 days in a row without a ball being bowled. Now, forecast for the fourth day also seems gloomy with the wet weather conditions likely to remain. Remember, play was called off at 11:30 a.m. on Monday after continuous drizzle kept the players off. Now, after the only bit of action on the day one, India are 80 for a no loss with openers Shikhar Dhawan and Murli Vijay at the crease. The hosts bowled out South Africa on 214 in their first innings, with the spinners R. Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja picking up 4 wickets apiece. And some more sports stories in Sports Beat. Australian fast bowler Mitchell Johnson has announced retirement from all international cricket. The 34-year-old will retire at the end of the current test against New Zealand on Tuesday. Johnson is the 4th highest test wicket taker for his country with a tally of 311 in his 73 test appearances. Pakistan Cricket Board rejected India's offer to host their proposed bilateral cricket series in the month of December. PCB chairman Shahrukh Khan said that the third home series in India was out of the question, adding that he could not see any reason why India is refusing to play in the UAE. Well, according to a memorandum of understanding signed by the BCCI and PCB in 2014, this is Pakistan's turn to play host, but for security reasons, Pakistan play their home matches in the UAE. Andy Murray began his ATP World Tour Finals campaign with a convincing win over Spain's David Ferrer. The British number 1 won in straight sets 6-4, 6-4. He will next play Rafael Nadal, who brushed aside Stan Wawrinka 6-3, 6-2 in his opening game. 2 goals from John Waters helped the Republic of Ireland secure a Euro 2016 spot as they overcame Bosnia-Herzegovina in the playoff for second leg in Dublin. A 2-0 win in the second leg gave Ireland a 2-1 aggregate win. They now join Northern Ireland, England and Wales in the Euro 2016 in France. Well, that's the wrap on this news bulletin. But before we go, Well, there is a festive spirit across North Indian states as people are celebrating Chhath Puja today, an auspicious day to offer prayers to the sun god for prosperity and happiness. So we leave you with these visuals of people celebrating Chhath Puja. Thanks for watching.